And what I realized through coaching this many people, and this is going to be the most controversial thing I ever say, it's not failure you're scared of, it's success.
I've been struggling with that a lot lately. Is that I think I finally admitted it like 2 months ago that I'm actually afraid of what the potential is. That's what's
What
scarier.
if it all went right?
That's the
What
scary
if
part.
I made money? What if my family was happy? What if I was healthy? Then, oh my God, the entire identity that I built of myself, my back up against the wall, I'd have to operate from a place of happiness, and I don't even know who that person is.
Hey, everybody. So, today on the Construction Series episode, we're talking to Austin Linney. And I kind of got connected with Austin via Twitter, actually, because I was following his journey into investing into a HVAC, plumbing, and electrical business. So, he bought this company in northern Pennsylvania and has really been kind of diving into the CEO role and overhauling this business. And today we kind of get into the details of what his investment company does, what they're looking for in businesses, but more specifically, how do they apply that to trade type businesses. So I think it'll be a really cool conversation, and hopefully you guys get something out of it. So let's dive into the conversation with Austin. Austin, can't thank you enough for joining us today. We've chatted in the past a little bit about your different endeavors, but kind of wanted to just let the audience start off by hearing a little bit about what you got going on right now.
Sure. I mean, currently, I'm in northern Pennsylvania. I would say 7 months ago, I didn't know northern. I didn't know I didn't know the city I'm in right now. So I would say for the last 3 years, 2.5, give or take 3 years, it's kind of been a let life does what life does. In that time, I've launched hotels for my mentor. I left the career I was in for 20 years. I got divorced. I started a podcast. I've traveled out of the country 6 times. I've been to almost every state in the United States living in an RV. So, we keep which is really interesting because I'm a mindset and kind of life business coach. So every client hires me wanting a certain outcome, and I get them to understand that life kind of gives you what you need. And I've always been somebody that takes an opportunity where it sits and kind of makes the best out of it. I like a little looseness. I've done 800 podcasts and I've never written down a single thing. I kind of just like, I think that it's hard for people that have a logical brain to let life kind of happen to them, right? I have no problems with a plan. I have plans. We have 90-day goals and all that stuff. But I think sometimes if you plan too much, you kind of take the wonder out of life. And I think that's what we've kind of done. We've kind of take curiosity out of life. I feel like we're starting to get back more to it. But we're buying businesses right now. We're creating businesses in the HVAC plumbing space. And then we're doing some storage development and stuff. So I've kind of, I don't tell everybody what I do because it would freak them out.
Mhm.
But more importantly, I don't tell them everything I have done because it would be too much for them too. I've lived a lot of lives. I've worked in the music business. I was sold wine for 20 years. I worked at high-end hotels. I've done Airbnb for 7 years. Now we're buying businesses. So I've kind of done it all. It's been a wild road to get there through addiction and homelessness and meth addiction and all that kind of stuff like that, and alcoholism and divorce. But man, it hasn't been uninteresting. That's for damn sure.
Well, no, it sounds like it. And you talk about allowing, opportunities to present themselves and kind of just being open to them. Is that something you've always had, or is it something you had to develop as you've gotten older?
It's something that I've got easier at handling when I stopped allowing my identity to be defined by what I did. I think most people get their happiness from their job or their
Hmm.
company, and they stopped being a human. They stopped getting happiness from, like, hey, asking the barista in the morning when you went into the coffee shop, hey, are you having a great day?
Yeah.
Like my values of who I am as a person, I carry much more weight to me than what I've created in my jobs.
So do you think it's that we get that pleasure or whatever from the title that we have, or is it what do you think
Correct.
okay.
You get it because it massages something within your ego to make you feel good about the love that you didn't get when you were a child or from a significant other. Right. Look,
Yeah.
dude, I've coached 16 people every week for 4.5 years straight. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can boil down every single problem to one thing and one thing only. They don't love themselves enough.
That's powerful.
They don't love themselves enough. And somebody along the way told them that they had to give a shit what other people cared about.
But then how to and that's but it's easy to say, right? Like that
it's super easy for it to roll off my tongue. I do vice versa. I'm talking about I'm while I'm saying that, guys, I'm talking about myself too.
Right. I think that's the key is that people will hear people like yourself that have found success, whatever that means for them, or they say this is what you need to do, and don't realize that you're still battling that every day, right?
Every day. But what I've really spent time on and what I think is the ultimate thing is attachment. Okay. Look, I was just talking to my buddy, my ex-client. He's one of the most successful people I've ever met in my entire life, dude. This kid is a killer. I mean, just a murderer. Makes crazy money, $100,000 coaching clients. He's thinking about selling his business. And everybody that's buying his businesses, the people that are going to give him the money are saying, don't sell your business. You're selling it too young.
Mm.
And he says, I just don't want to be this person anymore. And if I continue this business, then I am the land guy.
Mm.
When people don't understand I'm so much more than that, but because society wants to pigeonhole him in that thing, all he wants to do is just explore the other things, right? And so he has $100,000 payroll every month. And I told him, I said, dude, since I took over this company, I've been waking up like 2-3 times a week and having like flashes of like, we don't have any money.
Oh yeah.
But we have money. I've seen the bank accounts. I know there's money there, but it hits me, right? He's been doing this for 8 years at this level. And he said, hey man, I get those every day too.
Mm.
So he's doing 4-6 million a year and he's still dealing with that.
Yeah.
And so what we've learned to do is we've learned to hear them, feel them, but not associate who we are with them. Because here's what happens is those feelings that you're talking about, if they stick to you long enough, they become your attitude. They become your personality.
Right.
And so where I had to get to, and this is a huge lesson and it'll change your entire life. Okay. When I used to wake up in the morning, okay, when I ran my Airbnb business at scale in 7 states, and I was still an alcoholic. My first thought every morning, I used to wake up and look at my phone. What's going to be the problem today? What is going to get my attention today? What's going to run my life today? That's what I thought. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's going to be the negative thing today? Okay. Well, when I did enough work on myself to say, whatever it is, I'm going to deal with it. It's going to be a great day. Those texts stopped coming. I didn't attract them anymore. And your negative patterns and the people you're hanging around with will create this thing of where these things are drawn to you. Well, when's the other shoe going to drop? Like, how many times have you said that in your life?
Right.
And what I realized through coaching this many people, and this is going to be the most controversial thing I ever say, it's not failure you're scared of. It's success.
I've been struggling with that a lot lately is that I think I finally admitted it like 2 months ago that I'm actually afraid of what the potential is. That's what's scary.
What if it all went right?
That's the scary
What if
part.
I made money? What if my family was happy? What if I was healthy? Then, oh my God, the entire identity that I built of myself, my back up against the wall, I'd have to operate from a place of happiness, and I don't even know who that person is. That sounds so crazy, right? But that is what I found. You coach so many people and they start making some money and then they go self-sabotage themselves.
Well, it's almost like you feel like you don't deserve it too. Like there's that imposter syndrome to it. It's like, well, why should I be the one that's successful?
100%. And why shouldn't you? right? And I think at the end of the day, defining what success means to you allows you a cleaner space to dictate what that is, right?
So
And
yeah.
so here's a little exercise I do with my clients that I think is funny. Okay. And this just shows you the ridiculousness of the world we live in. Okay. So let's say that you and I are business partners, and for 10 years straight, the business only yields us 50 grand a piece. So you and I only make 50 grand a piece. We're the owners. Okay.
Okay.
And so for 10 years straight, all I do is make 50 grand. Okay. Oh my God, I'm barely surviving. On the 10-year, we sell the business for $100 million. Was I not successful in the first year? Or was I only successful when I sold it? And see, we put too many parameters on what numbers mean to us, and that defines our success. And so what I realize is that when you're in the game of investing, your money is always going to be in the market. It's always going to be in a business. It's always going to be in a piece of real estate. So you can't tie your identity to that. Perfect example. Another client. He flips 10 houses a month and he wholesales. I've begged him to put more money back in his account to feel successful, but he knows if he does that, his money's not making money for them. So I said, so why do you need that money to feel more secure if you know where your money is at all times? These are the things that I love to play around with, because we're defining and predicating our mood on how much money we have in the bank or where. It doesn't matter, because that means you're living your life off of your job, the dollar amount that you make per month and everything like that. Like if I'm doing what I love and I'm building a company and we're successful and we're doing it, then that should be enough to make me happy every day, because that's the process. That's the outcome that we're seeking. And what cracks me up, right? And I rarely share this. Like, people see you buy a company and they're like, dude, that guy must be loaded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. My ex-wife took my house, took most of my shit, took my dog. It's been a struggle. I made great money, but I also took on the debt from the marriage. I'm really good at getting investors. So yeah, there'll be a time and a place when I cash out. We make a ton of money, but I made damn good money, but I've never made like millions or anything like that, like not in one calendar year. And that will happen, but I don't care, because what we've entered into is I'm done making money, and what we're doing is we're creating wealth. And the only way to create true wealth is to put your ego aside and promote others. And so my COO, my project manager, my ops manager, I'm more worried about what they're making, how they feel about it, because those are going to be the people that take us to the promised land. And when you have a vision as big as we do, where you're trying to change communities and you're trying to invest back into high schools and you're trying to invest in communities that have been crapped on for 50 plus years, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot. But I always realize that some of the moves that you make now, you won't see for years to come, but you have to be comfortable with making those moves in the moment. And it takes some understanding to distance yourself from needing that feeling of, oh my God, this is great, because entrepreneurship at its core is, we have all the money in the world, or I'm going to drive Uber like in the same week, and like people think that it's any different than that, then I don't know what you're doing.
So yeah, well, it's certain people, like everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur, right? So how do you, and maybe you have clients that just want a job, and obviously you have businesses, so you have technicians that just want a job. How do you teach those people to define and then find success for themselves?
Well, first they have to take pride in their work and the quality of work, right? Like where we are, like I don't have to fight for business. Like we are the king. We're in a small area. So now we're playing a different game, right? A lot of companies fight for business. I'm fighting for quality.
Right.
And so when they take pride in their quality, now what they're asking me for is to get better about saving money. What's leadership talk, like all that kind of stuff. So then I know, okay, wow, there's something more here, right? And so then you start creating this culture, but it's something that you build over time. But what's interesting is like and I know I'm not alone on this because I've heard it on Twitter. Do you know how many times I wish I was just a hired gun like sales guy?
Right.
Dude, I would be like raking like $500,000 a year, no responsibilities, working 4 days a week. But that's not me. That's not gonna fulfill me. That would fulfill my money, but
Right.
it wouldn't fulfill me as a person. And so you have to have conversations to understand what's going to make you happy, and more importantly, what's going to fulfill you up. And what's going to fill you up is maybe not the money, but what that job is creating. And there's no other thing on the planet that creates fulfillment the way small business does. But there's also no thing that will rip your soul apart like small business does.
Yeah.
So you have to know the waters that you're climbing into.
So you've invested in all these different types of businesses, and I started
Mm-hmm.
following you there back in November when you first went into the plumbing HVAC world. So what was the impetus for that, and why invest in that type of business?
Yeah, I mean, it was accident, a little bit. We went for a different type of business, kind of landed on here. We knew we wanted to do this, but we had pushed this part of the business back farther. But as I started reading through the data and some laws that went into effect, and as I started looking at the trends of the market, it made a lot of sense to us. Uh, and then more importantly, when I got into it deeper, I just fell in love with the people.
Right.
They're just great people doing a great job. It's something that's never going to go away. Um, we're going to have other verticals within that business, but for right now, I think that, and this is not hyperbole, but it is the truth. Like, I'm in a cold area, and if you don't have heat, an older person can, pass away or get sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not. I'm not saying like we're out there saving the world, but it is important, right? It is a necessary product. That so I like that. And I think in my 20s, and especially in my late teens, I wanted all the sizzle. I wanted the stuff that was fun and marketing and all this stuff. And my joke now is like, all I do as a CEO is spend all my time with insurance people and lawyers. It's very boring.
Right.
But but what I'm realizing is the more boring, a lot of times the more profit. And a little easier to understand that you have a bigger moat around you that's not going to be predicated on the next technology that comes out, right? It's more
Right.
about taking something that's, I think it's funny, right? And this is kind of an interesting topic that I think would generate a lot of buzz. It's like all us young guys that think we know best, and some of us do, and we're skilled and all that stuff. There is a reason that through 3 recessions and all these bad things, that these guys that don't have much past a high school education created a business that lasted 25, 30, 50 years. And so before you go in just slinging all the great things that you're going to do, remember that you are the only new factor in this business. So you better not
Right.
mess it up.
I I struggled with that because I worked for my dad's plumbing company when I was like in high school and in college. And when you're just working there or even starting to manage, you think, well, I would do this differently and it would work so much better.
Mm.
It's like, but it's easy to do it when you're not the one that has to deal with that,
It's
the
easy to do
consequences.
when you don't have the responsibility, right? And I tell everybody the story, man. I cut my teeth in the hospitality space, dude, and I spent my whole life, my 18-year career, dude, just saying, man, if I was the manager, people would follow me through, the wars, right?
Yeah.
So, long story short, a couple things happened, and I got this GM job at this store. And everybody said, "Oh, it's the worst store. They've been through 12 managers in 15 months. There's no chance you're going to be able to turn it around." And I was like, "Oh, just watch." Um, and It was the worst thing I've ever dealt with in my entire life.
Hmm.
it was the end of me drinking because I was drinking so heavily that I was sleeping in the office. I had 10 straight days in a row that employees didn't show up. I was doing 7 different jobs. The assistant manager got sick and quit 3 days in. I mean, it. I have no problem saying it broke me. Like,
Yeah.
it was one of my lowest points. The regional manager called me after a particularly terrible weekend, and she said, I need you to talk to me. I need you to tell me what's going on. And I just couldn't do it. I never wanted to be that person that let somebody else down. And she goes, "Oh, I'll call you back later," because she knew I had the day off. And of course, I started drinking, and I got a little looser about 5 o'clock. And she called me back, and I was like, "Dude," I was like, this job is killing me. Like, it's literally killing me, and I don't think I could do it anymore." And she goes, "That's what I needed to hear." And she goes, "Just give me 3 weeks, and we'll get you out, and you can go on about your day." But I mean, it was a ego stripping, soul stripping situation, because nothing I did mattered. um and it's one of those things where, especially as a young guy, you think you're invincible. You can just do anything you want and people are going to follow you, and some did, but I just didn't have enough put around me. And that's when I finally started realizing that you can't do this alone. I was a lone wolf for many, many years. And I realized that you need people to share in your passion, and facilitate the areas that you don't like, and go from there. And there's, I've been through so many bad partnerships because I trust very easily.
Mm.
And but I've made a conscious decision that that's going to be my MO. And um I've lost tons of money this way. And even dealing with something right now in the real estate space with just a partnership that we probably won't do another deal together. Just people are interesting, right? Because I think, Hermosi said that if you can live your life predicated on the fact that everybody has their own best interest at heart, then you'll be pretty good. And I think, as I get older, that statement rings truer and truer.
I always wonder if it's just like me being naive, but I try to go into like relationships with the idea that it's not like that, right? Or that it's like when I first bought into the business, and it's been a few years now, but you realize how cutthroat certain people are, especially in these smaller communities. And it's like, why? I feel like there's enough work for all of us. Why would we not just work together and try and make the community
It's
better? It's
it's short-sighted. It's nobody's playing the long game, and understanding that reputation is everything, right?
yeah,
And I just give you a perfect example, just little things but big things, right? And I think that's my new MO I'm on. Like, what's a little thing that's a big thing? Like,
mm,
that's my thing. Okay, perfect example. I get a phone call from the local VOTAC school in town. There's 32 kids from freshman to high school. We have one employee currently that's in the VOTEC school, junior. Never really been a big thing, even though the seller came from a VOTEC school, but we never really farmed the area, right?
right.
And so they said, "Look, we need somebody to proctor the exam at the end of the month." And I was like, "Oh, my lead tech will do it." So my lead tech's going to go out. I'm going out too. There's 7 seniors. We called all of our manufacturers, Milwaukee and all this stuff. I said, "Look, I need tools for these guys, these seniors that are graduating. None of these guys are my employees. They haven't committed to come work for me. I don't even know that they're going to do HVAC. I have no
Mhm.
idea. I don't even know who they are." But I said, "I'm going to get them some tools, and I'm going to do it every year while I'm in business." And I'm not asking them to come for me,
Right.
but let's think about those 32 people. And let's say I get 3. These are 18-year-old guys that could work for me for the next 50 years. How much money are they going to make me? How much better am I going to make them? Who are they going to refer to me? And what is it going to cost me? A couple grand? We have forgotten that business is done with humans.
Yeah.
No matter where we go, technology and social media, is that there's a human on the other end of this. And one of the things that I fell in love with, this area has had a lot of blows over the years with big companies leaving. But the thing it doesn't lack is the care for these people and their pride in work and how they care about their family. So I can build on that. And it just needs a lightning rod to kind of spark it back. I hired 15 people in the last 5 weeks. That's a big deal for this area.
Right.
Big deal. And so we have to nurture the community. We have to show them there's hope. We have to lead by example. We have to step up. And that's what these small businesses are. And if you're not building for that, of course it's going to be hard to get clients. Of course it's going to be hard to get customers, because they're now they only have something to hold on to, and that's called price. And that's easily negotiated. So what's the why? What's the reason that they want to do business with your company? Another example, small but big for us. Myself and my COO are not from here. We've only both been here about 6 weeks. He's the lead plumber. He gets a call from a guy, says, "Hey man, y'all installed some stuff 2 years ago. I got a little leaky thing. Could you just replace the faucet?" Sure. Sounds good. COO goes, looks at it. It's not bad. It's not great. We have no idea who did the shower inlay. Without asking me, he ripped out the shower, replaced it on our dime, fixed it. Everything's perfect. Yeah, it's going to cost us a couple $100. But what is that guy going to say that we come back and we did it right? 2 years later, we have no idea who did it. We didn't ask him to pay for anything small but big.
Right.
Right. And I think sometimes in life we can look through the spreadsheet and we could say, oh, this is how it has to be done. But nobody's looking at the layer 3, 4, and 5 behind that. What's the implication of that situation? And I think we need to be a little more in tune with our gut and our feelings in business, and pull out of the spreadsheet a little bit.
No, I agree. And what are you guys doing? You mentioned earlier about the focus being on the quality. What are you guys doing as far as training or, kind of changing that focus for all the technicians or new hires to get them to focus on that quality?
I mean, to be honest with you, haven't had much time to do any of that.
Yeah.
We are about to send a bunch of guys off to training. I mean, we're talking about real money invested in these guys, hotels, Ubers, classing. So we're committed to the thing. What we've kind of put is a checks and balances. So whoever the install team is, we have a different team do the startup.
Okay.
So what that means is the install guys go put it in, the service guys go do the startup with the 10-point, checklist. So now you have multiple people looking at it, and our lead tech oversees certain things. Because when I got here, we did have a lot of callbacks. We did do some lazy stuff. But once I finally I gave them a promotion because they were way underpaid. I gave them a promotion. I told them, this is the last one you're going to get that's not predicated on your attitude, performance, or KPIs. But when I paid them what they thought they were worth, which was market value, I've got nothing from them since. They're so happy. They didn't care. 3 of them text me. It says the first time I ever feel valued in the company. Because before that, the only time they got a raise was if they threatened to quit. Now, here's the problem, though. And I told every single one involved. I mean, we're talking about guys that have 40 years experience getting paid $8-10 under market value, okay? And I said, look, it's just as much your fault as it is the seller's. You didn't ask for what you wanted, so don't be so upset that we didn't give you what you wanted.
All right.
And so it's a two-way street when it comes to employee and employer. Don't be held hostage, but stand for what you believe you're worth, but maybe keep your head down, do some good work, and then you'll get rewarded without you having to ask. And so there's this push and pull.
How did you get everyone outside of just a promotion to buy into this idea that you were coming in? Because in the blue collar industries, that we work in, that we invest in, there's a lot of, hey, we've always done it this way, or I've done it this way for so long. How did you get them to, start to accept that this change is coming? And maybe it was easy because it was good changes, but what were some of those initial challenges of getting the team to say, all right, we're on board with this?
I think first and foremost, pick your battles. I don't think everything needs to be a war. I think if overall it's not affecting the movement of the company, you can fix it later. Address the things that are hurting the company or hurting the customer or hurting the bottom line, but not everything needs to be a tooth and nail battle. One, I know it's ridiculous and I don't care what people think. I'll never wear slacks around these guys ever.
Yeah.
It's just little things like that. I'm an outsider. It's very rural. It's country as hell. So I wear jeans, boots. I get out there. I've done a lot of one-on-ones with the older guys, like a lot. Like sit in my house for 3 hours, chat with them, get to know them. They ball it into me, which then in turn the younger guys to buy into me. That's number one thing I did. I took some of them to dinner with their families. That was very important. And more importantly, I've just treated them with respect. Every morning when they're there in the tech room, I go out and shake their hand, ask them if they're doing good. And here's the deal, guys. I'll be 100% honest. There's 4 guys I've never spoken to once. I've been here for 2 months. They're not that type of guys. They don't care. They never said a word. People know nothing about them. But guess what? The first ones to show up and they're the last ones to leave. Why do I need me to get them to talk to me? Would only be for my ego, not for them.
Right.
And so understanding that everybody's different. They're the best workers we have. Nobody's bothering them. They do an amazing job. Nobody ever has to check their work. So my need to get them to talk to me is only for me, not them.
Well, it's good that you recognize it, right? I think
Yeah.
that's the difference of, you kind of talked about, I could do this, make a bunch of money. Lone wolf is more that sales role. Whereas when it becomes the CEO or like that leadership role, it's understanding all the dynamics and every single person's different.
The layers of this, dude, I can't wait to talk about this more when we close in like 3 weeks. Cause I mean, you want to talk about mistakes, and we're not talking about small mistakes. We're talking about massive financial situations that we dealt with. Lawyer screwing us over, our new lawyer being 15 times more expensive, tax thing we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we bought such a good deal. It doesn't matter. And the way it's structured, it still won't matter. But what I didn't understand, and this is just my personality, right? Because I've started my own companies and they've grown, right? But I've never attached myself to a company that was already making money, right? $4 million a year. I have so much respect for what it takes to be CEO. I mean, like the way I describe it is it's like riding on a train with no brakes that has rocket fuel in the tank. Like it is just, I've got 33 employees. We've got 15 new hires. I've got emotions coming from the service guys. I got emotions coming from the install guys. I've got the office managers who are dealing with CRMs being put in, and then the seller and his emotions and his 40 years in the business, and then the deal falling apart and getting him back on board and making sure the lawyers behave. And I mean, there's so many different layers. And because I've done so much personal development work and I've had so much to get over my addiction and my personal stuff and get divorced, I'm so adept to handle the 9 different layers of emotions that everybody's feeding off of. Like perfect example today, I got somebody crying at the office. I'm not in there today. All I know is my CEO told me that somebody's crying and somebody's upset. I have no idea what it's about, but he goes, I'll handle it and I'll fill you in later. Great. Sounds good, man. Let me do. But like him and I are just like, I mean, you want to talk about same page. Right. He is everything I'm not. I'm everything he's not. It's what I'm realizing is that you can't put a price tag on top talent. Somebody that's emotionally done it, and somebody like our consultant that we're bringing on full time. We have a conversation tomorrow. Came off of Twitter that some guy posted something, and he goes, "I trust me." He runs a $1 billion company. He goes, "Trust me, you want this person." She spent 25 years in the space. She's in between jobs. She has done every role in the HVAC space. Paying her is everything because I don't have to explain myself for the next 6 months. And I think that's what small businesses taught me more than anything is when you have that person, you need to pay them what they're worth to let them go do the job they were meant to go do, which allows you to be an owner, allows you to be the owner that you need to be instead of the one that you have to be.
I like that quote. When you talk about being the CEO, is that
are you focused primarily on this new venture, or is it
Mhm.
on the whole
So,
umbrella of everything?
so both.
All
So
right.
we so let me help how the structure works. Okay, so there's 6 owners. We own a private equity group, and then you have this company, and then we have other ones that we're buying behind this one. All right. So
Mhm.
service-based businesses, real estate development. There's a development arm, and there's service-based businesses. I interviewed CEOs for 6 months. I'm talking about top level guys that have worked at $50 million companies. I interviewed all of them. We were in deep negotiations with 2 of them, offering them the best package and everything that you could think of. They had both been in the space 30 plus years. I was moving up here no matter what, because we have a lot of commercial contracts with a lot of old school shake hand deals. And I
Okay.
wanted to make sure that they knew who the new seller was. You can't just have this is a small town. You can't have a faceless owner. It doesn't work here. Right. So the last time I flew up here, right before I was supposed to move up here, I had 7 meetings in a row. So I flew into Pittsburgh. I had 7 meetings back to back to back. I didn't leave Pittsburgh, which I'm an hour and a half north. I didn't leave Pittsburgh till like 8 or 7, and I'm driving up at night listening to podcast music. And I go, I can't hire those CEOs. I can't. I
Why?
said I can't. I said I can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, damn it. It's got to be me. It's got to be me. And what I realize is that what this business needs, and where we are at in our infancy, in our foundational stage, it needs fire. It needs passion. It needs an ass kicking. It needs accountability. It has to be me. It has to be me. And so I literally called my business. I called a meeting for all the owners. Dude, we're talking about, when I say this, I'm talking about top 3 CEOs. Now, I didn't know that we were going to get him. He's built $200 million companies. He was probably going to go to a larger equity firm, but we were making a great push for him. I can't believe we even had a shot at him, right? And I said, guys, I get that he would be amazing. And I get that we could probably figure out a way to afford him. And he's still going to be an advisor, but it has to be me. I have to put this baby on my back. And when I did, in true Austin fashion, I did it, not even thinking about it. Didn't even cross my mind, just jumped in, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't until 2 weeks ago, I was sitting at home on a Friday night and I was going, holy crap, I'm running a $4 million company. It didn't even, like, this was 2 months later. It didn't even hit me. But what I realized is that what we need right now as a company is what I can bring to the table. Now, when we get to 25 million in revenue, got to step up to the president role and probably move aside and let that person take it from 25 to 100 million and let me do what I do best, which is get back to acquisition. Hiring is like my specialty, but I still see every aspect of the business. But I wouldn't be able to do what I do without my COO and my GM and my project manager and my ops manager. So what I lack in HVAC spatial knowledge, I make up for in being, top level with people and
Yeah.
recruiting. And so I also think that sometimes it's better to have somebody that hasn't been brought up in the space to get a different point of view of how things need to be done too.
What do you tell people that and running now that you've seen this particular line of work? So for like technicians that think that they want to do their own thing, or for other small HVAC and plumbing owners, what are the steps or what are the things that they need to work on in order to start to scale?
The number one thing that you have to do as a company is 2 things. I say the 2 best things that you could do: decentralize the information. Okay. So the information in this company was all done on paper, and everybody owned their aspect, but nobody else got to see the information.
Right.
And so if you needed to hunt down that person or that information, it's impossible to find it. If that person didn't come into work that day, good luck. That's the number one thing. The second thing is create what I call second level thinking. Okay. There's no critical thinking at the company. It is, I'm only going to do what's best for right in front of me. I'm never going to think about how that affects anything else. Right. And it's so simple of taking it a step further and going, okay, if I do this, what's going to happen? Or like, is that financially that might not make sense, but emotionally that makes a ton of sense because that person's going to be happy and that I don't have to do that. That's those two things. But more importantly, this is the most important thing, is decide what you want in your life. Like if you're a 3-man shop and you're making and you're netting $250,000 a year, if you hire 3 more people, and yeah, you might make an extra 150,000, but that's 3 more headaches. Do you really want that? Are you a people person? Like we when I get on the golf course with all my buddies who own multiple companies, we all have the same conversation. Do we really need a scale?
Right.
Do we really need a scale? Like remember that most of the time you're doing the scaling for your ego. You're not doing it for your pocketbook.
That's right.
As my father would say, who's one of the most successful dentists I've ever met in my entire life, Austin, after like 320 grand, it all kind of feels the same. He goes, there's not really much more you can buy. Traveling's still the same. Yeah, you can buy some nicer things. So really decide what you want as a human, what matters for you and your family, and what are the most important things, and don't let those get in the way.
No, I think that's, so true. And it's like I made those mistakes early on. It's like I just want to get that top line number as big as possible, or the employee count as high as possible. And I don't know, you start to make errors and you create issues that aren't needed just to satisfy your own ego.
So here's an interesting conversation, and I can't share any of the details because it's in flux. So you'll get no names, but it's pretty cool. So long story short, I'm on with Thursday. I'm on with a guy. This is all Twitter again. I'm on with a guy who's our marketing director, who sold his HVAC company for $28 million. He runs a marketing firm. They're handling our marketing. Well, he's also a buy-side broker, a sell-side broker. I'm with his 2 partners who have bought 150 HVAC companies for some of the bigger names that you know. Okay, so we're talking about monster players, okay? Right. The other side of the table has got 200 million and to spend, along with the other guy, their partner, who's going to buy 50 businesses this year. So we're talking about, this is a high-powered phone call. And the guy that's built 150 businesses, he was talking about how what perception is everything, depending on how much money you have in your fund, okay? And this is very interesting, right? Because hear me out. If you buy a $35 million HVAC company, it's great. That's awesome. You're going to look good. People are going to know your name. That's great. But did you know that it's better for your pocketbook and better for your upward growth to buy a $4 to $6 million company? Why is that? Because you can create more growth opportunities in the 4 to 6 million, and you'll make more return on your investment. But do you feel better saying that you bought a $35 million company that's only going to grow 5% a year, opposed to this one growing 30%?
Right.
And see, perception is reality. So you have to ask yourself, what's the question? What's the number that matters the most to me? And that's what you have to do. And mean that we're doing all this to invest in education. We're doing all this to create an entrepreneurship business. We're doing all this to give back to the community. Yeah, we have to reach our numbers and we got to hit our things, but that's not what I'm gonna get excited about. Like I get just as excited about selling a $9,000 plumbing job as I do if we sold a $2 million plumbing job, because they both matter.
Mm-hmm.
But we put more weight on the 2 million. But yeah, but what you're not knowing about the 2 million is I'm going to create less margin. My guys are going to be held up for a year, and I lose my opportunity costs at the other smaller jobs.
Right.
That's the second layer of business that people are talking about.
So and then we'll wrap up here in a minute. What's the plan, or how are you planning on scaling? You talked about getting this service side business to $100 million. If you're in a rural community, what are your plans? Obviously, that's not the only place that this is going to grow to. So is it a geographic growth? Is it, a service type growth? Like, what are your plans at your
I think it's both. I mean, we have a service area here. We're going to create more other verticals like with inside that. So like we already have HVAC, plumbing, and electric. Like I might as well do remodel and construction because we're being asked for it. So there's not anybody in the area doing it. So we'll do that. So that's going to help us out. We're going to do storage facilities, and then we're going to build apartment complexes for our staff. We're going to finance them houses. There's going to be a lot of different opportunities there. I'm thinking about building a training center for HVAC plumbing. So that's one vertical. There's other businesses that we're intrigued about too, that create higher margins that match with the owner's skill sets. Landscaping, other things like that. So there are other verticals. What we've decided to do right now is that we have such an opportunity as it sits right now. The demographics good, the age is good. We have a lay of the land. So we're not going to focus on other states at the moment. That we're going to build up the geographical footprint for us that we're looking at 100 miles of both directions and 100 miles west and 100 miles east. Once we do that, then we've kind of created our foundation, our base, and then we'll kind of move on to the next states and stuff like that. I would be lying if I said that I thought we were going to buy like 10 this year. And I agree that we could definitely buy like 4. We probably will buy 4. 3 of those will be tuck-ins, but these business transactions to close these businesses take a lot longer than you think, but also take a lot more energy than you think. And so you have to kind of get your team together. And what we're doing is building an onboarding team with a project managers team. Once we get those teams kind of, we build out the system, then I think it'll be a lot easier to onboard more companies.
No, it's such a cool, like just watching your journey, and you could tell that you got so passionate about it once you were diving into CEO, just following you on Twitter. And, I just think that the story, you've talked a lot about your past and overcoming things. And then, now going, head over heels into the service industry. It's just cool to watch. I don't know.
Well,
So,
I think it's predicated off of a need. And I think everybody that is buying a business or wanting to buy a business can understand this. I don't want to be told what to do anymore. And more importantly, I don't want to have to be the one pulling the strings for other people.
right.
I want to pull the strings, and I want that responsibility of knowing that the buck stops with me, and understand that I am in a different position than my other owners because they have to hear from me, and they're managing from a spreadsheet, and I'm in the day-to-day trenches. And sometimes I have to make judgment calls within that moment that they wouldn't make if they were standing up here, but they have to trust me enough to know that I'm talking about, and vice versa. I have to listen to them when they're saying, you need to be looking out for this. So it is a interesting position to be in, said owner, said thing, so
Yeah.
that's a game in itself as well.
So what's one, just to end on, what's one piece of advice that you kind of use on a daily basis to make yourself better that people can apply to their lives?
It's very simple, and I want everybody to perk up their ears. And this is what I tell my team every day. If you can understand that Gary V wakes up every morning telling himself that he's playing small, then you got work to do.
I like it. Austin, I appreciate you taking the time today to chat with me about this. It's helped me more than you know, because we're in a similar industry, similar space. So I really appreciate it. We'll keep following you on Twitter. We'll plug all your things, but I appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.